really quite, they covered a program.
No, we didn't talk about the ones over in Europe and Asia much. Where I went to school. But it was fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, sure. Figure out what caused it, yeah.
All right, my clock says 5 o'clock, so we're gonna call the meeting to order. First item of routine business is the, announce the Opens Meeting Act is posted on the wall over here. As always, Lisa, please call the roll.
Vance,
Here.
Brett,
Yes.
Sean,
Here.
Skylar.
Here.
All present and accounted for, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
There, an extra paper. No, his office, I'll grab one back there. Yellow.
Next on
Heather, thank you.
agenda, item 2 is the consent agenda. As always, all items can be approved with passage of one motion. We have the minutes, the claims, treasurer's report, department head reports. You all have those in your packet. So what's your pleasure?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Call roll.
Brett,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Vance.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Move on to the mayor's report and appointments. Guess I haven't prepared any report. I was sick last week, I'm getting better now, how's that? But we do have quite a few appointments. The annual appointments, can those be handled in one motion, or do they have to be done separately?
Unless somebody else will pick one out. Like we did last year, just do them all, if you want to pick one out, not.
Alrighty,
Are there any new appointments? Are these all
They're all the same.
reappointments?
all the same.
The new one from last year would be the NFIT, which you guys approved
Oh,
a couple months
gotcha.
ago.
I guess the only question I have on this is, Michael, are these committees actually, have they been meeting? Have they been meeting on a regular basis? Is there any
These ones
minutes
down
to, yeah?
Oh, we're
I'm
just
sorry.
on
Oh, I'm sorry.
the annual
Never mind.
appointments
Yep,
first of
sorry.
all, sorry.
I'm not getting ahead of myself, I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry.
That's
We
all
need
right.
to amend First National Bank to Homestead Bank.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Oh, good catch.
Susie caught that this morning.
That's a hard one.
Second time, first time I read right through it, second time I caught it, when they were sponsoring the news. I did catch it that time.
Yeah, I know I struggle with that, so, thank you.
Any other questions on the annual appointments?
Move to approve the mayor's annual appointments. We need to list them out.
Probably read through the list quick.
All right. Dr. Melvin Campbell for municipal physician, Rod Palmer, city attorney, Andy Taylor, prosecuting attorney, Bruce Papstein, chief of police, Lisa Schroll, city administrator slash clerk slash treasurer, Brad Miller, water and sewer superintendent, Kevin Shaw, street foreman, Lloyd Smith, street superintendent, West Plains Bank, Homestead Bank, Union Bank, Nebraska Public Agency Investment Trust, NFIT, Bank Depositories, and Ainsworth Star Journal, KBRD, radio station, publications.
Second.
Motion and a second. Good job. Any other
Nailed it.
comments? Nailed. Go ahead and call the roll.
Sean,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Vance,
Aye.
Brett,
Yes.
They're all approved unanimously. Now, Brad, did you have, we're on to cemetery and tree board?
Yeah, that was the only question I said, have they been meeting, I guess Brian's here on the park board, have you guys met at all, or?
Early on, right before COVID hit hard, we discussed trying to have a meeting, but then we just kind
yeah, we need to have
of, we need to have some, yeah.
it. I was waiting kind of till we got through the holidays and stuff, but yeah, now that spring's approaching.
Like last year or the year before, when we did the water sprinkler system, you know, city council put news, did the park board get involved in any of that?
Not that, but like bands through the committee and stuff you were working with.
Youth
the
Foundation.
Foundation.
They
We
were
were
kind of-
talking about doing, I think you guys had purchased some things for like frisbee golf or something.
Yeah.
So we were talking about setting up a course at the park and just a few things prior, so.
Yeah,
We do need to.
say, I've seen these, but I've just never seen a report or anything over the last 3 years that any of these committees have ever met, so.
The park board used to meet
We,
pretty
we,
regularly.
yeah, we would meet.
They were actually one of the more active committees, and then the cemetery board does not meet often, it's kind of really as in, or has been since I've been here, as needed, you know, if an issue comes up.
So who sets these meetings up, if they need to be set up or?
Usually
on a-
myself or the mayor.
To me, I think they should at least meet at least once a year to, I have no problem with these, so.
Yeah, the planning commission meets on zoning matters, we don't have a lot of those that come up, you know. The board of adjustments does meet often, very often, probably more often than they should, but that's the way our ordinances are written.
Yeah, in general, I suppose the last year and a half or so, if you didn't have to meet, nobody did because of COVID, but hopefully we'll get back into more of a routine as moving forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the cemetery board, tree board, 3-year term reappointment of Sherry Luther for a term ending in December 9th, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call roll.
Skylar?
Aye.
Vance?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
All right, how about planning commission?
I move for the planning commission for a 3-year term to reappoint Lance Shipwright, term ending December 2nd, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call roll.
Vance?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Skylar?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Park board.
I'll move to reappoint Brian Delmont to the park board with a 3-year term, with the term ending January 1st, 2025.
Second, any discussion? Call roll.
Brad?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Skylar?
Aye.
Vance?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. And now Board of Adjustments, there's 2 there, Heather and Josh as alternate.
I'll make a motion to approve the mayor's appointment, reappointment of Heather Luther and Josh Titus, alternate, with the term ending January 1st, 2025, for the Board of Adjustments.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call roll.
Sean?
Aye.
Skylar?
Aye.
Vance?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to those who served. I guess Brian's probably the only one here, but there's a lot of boards in town, over 80 names, Larry Rice told me once when we talked about it, that people that serve on all the various boards, so it's a lot of folks involved, and that's good. All right, I think it is time to move on to item number 4, public hearing for the Citizens Advisory Review Committee. So we'll open that public hearing at 5:08. And perhaps the way to start that is if Marcus would like to offer a report, or?
Sure, yeah. On behalf of Lisa and everybody, of course, put that report together in your packets, and in general, clean bill of health, I think, from an oversight standpoint. 2 loans are current, grants are being funded and completed as needed and as appropriate. So things look good there. I think the 3 main things on here are, we've got 2 appointments, reappointments or new appointments that are coming up, and I think we've got a meeting scheduled next week to do a few things, but discuss potential reappointments or new appointments if needed. But we'll hopefully keep those seats filled. Outside of that, I think everybody on this committee was at the last steering committee meeting, kind of working in conjunction with that group on a ballot initiative coming up here this year. So the group's plugged into that and helping as needed, and aware of what that group is trying to do and get something reelected. So we're involved in that. I think we've got some overview of the actual plan with the attorney from Mo to make sure that's updated where it needs to be, pending the voters' approval this summer. But we got a scheduled meeting to look at some of the recommendations she had, plan to make sure it's up to speed. But outside of that, it's been good. 3 new appointments, of course. This is the first time we had Mark, or just Mark and Roger, actually, just the 2. So they were both here, and
Yeah, get them oriented and
Yep.
involved, excellent.
yeah, it's a good group, I think. So.
Any public comments? Any questions from the council for Marcus? Well, I'll leave the public hearing open for a few more minutes, I guess. Somebody remind me to close in a little bit, but we will leave that open in case somebody does show up to comment, and move on with other agenda items. No old business tonight. Move on to the regular agenda. And I think we are going to skip over the Main Street improvement for now. Maybe leave that for last. How about we move on to an update from Three Rivers regarding the fiber project. Brian, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you. So it's going pretty well. I mean, running into snags like everything with getting some fiber in, but I think we're right at 200, between 200 and 300 left as far as we have a contractor in here hanging drops to the houses. If the house looks livable and doesn't need to be destroyed, we're hanging on to it. So that's going well, and then we're just trying to go as we can and hook them up to get people. Primarily right now we're working on our cable internet folks, people who have the cable internet, because that's more crucial because it has a 2-way path and up and downstream, where video just has the one primary. So trying to get all those off, and then new customers as we can get them hooked up. So we're right at, I'd say we have about 150 people hooked up right now. So
How's the video working over this?
pretty good. There's a few hiccups with it, but it's nothing like the current TV system is. So I mean, there'll be a little bit of a freeze, but we think it's just due to overloading, because we're running 2 systems right now, and the cloud servers have a little bit of issue with that. It's considerably better. I mean, it's not that pixelated and tight. I mean, you might see a little bit of a hiccup or a jerk or a freeze or something every once in a while, but generally on this one, where it's fiber-based and has the data, if you channel up and channel down away from it, it stops doing it. So it's just, once we get that's why we want to get everything off this other system, so we're not running so much on the cloud.
I know I've heard some comments today, well, when are they gonna hook me up, when are they gonna hook me up? And
Yeah.
I know you guys don't wanna just be bouncing
And I don't.
every
I don't
direction
do
around
ones
town,
and
try to
twos.
do one here, do one there, do one here, so.
Yeah, so we're kind of picking an area, and like I said, we're trying to hit the most vulnerable stuff now, which is the cable internet, and getting those folks off of that, and then we're gonna start moving forward with the TV, so.
Be just say, we started your presentation that, you run into all houses, whether they're occupied or not, or?
Yeah, trying, if it looks livable, just,
Okay.
or at least having it, especially in the aerial, and most of it's aerial, but to that portion of it, and then we'll coil it at the pole and leave it there. But the main reason is a lot of the aerial stuff, instead of lashing it all, and then say have to come back to another and relash again, because MPV's been pretty, they want the coax down. They don't wanna run both systems on the poles, they want the old coax ripped off the pole. And so we're trying to make sure we don't have to come back multiple times. So at least getting it to the pole that's gonna feed the house. If it's the loop. So, yeah, I mean, it's going good, so slow start, but got everything going, and most people hooked up, I think. Most of you guys going again, I think. So, cause you guys get the calls too, so it's kinda nice if you, you guys have the service at your places, so.
I did have that one hiccup I talked to you about. And
Yeah,
I got it, I got
Did
it.
you see that?
Yeah.
I didn't notice it either, I tried it too, but where it says add right in front of that, it blocks.
Now, it seems like on my phone, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, that's our system, that's actually a good thing, we're actually protecting something that's kinda neat.
They figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's an ad blocker and it blocks any type of spam, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good. So yeah, if you guys have questions, it's going good and we're plugging away, so I know we have to meet at some point and do some more agreements on some things, but so we can get together.
Shouldn't be as tough as the one.
No, but we can.
I hope so, anyway.
You got a stamp with your signature on it, so I can just stamp it.
Yeah, right.
Should we try and get a time set up at the end of the meeting, maybe?
We can, it's whatever you guys want.
I'm gonna say, we can try, you've got kids with ball games, and
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna
I've
be,
got kids with ball games, so it might be better if we just send out some dates over email to, I assume that Vance and Skylar still, and
Zoom committee, yeah.
that's fine, yeah, just.
and then just you, Brian, or is there anybody else from Three River we should include on that?
So get me in on it, let's start with me and see if we can get this done, I think we'll be a little less headache if I can
Sounds good.
get it done.
I'll shoot an email, maybe tomorrow, I'll send an email out.
I have to run it by the board, but, I mean, hopefully we can get it figured out. Alright, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
for coming. I'm gonna go ahead and, unless there's any comments on the, public hearing for the Citizens Advisory Review Committee report, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 5:17. And move on to discuss and consider the recommendation from the Committee on Housing to approve application number 1862 for a loan of $20,000.
This is the Housing Rehabilitation Fund that was originally started through a community development block grant that the city received clear back in the 90s. So it's a revolving loan fund, so loan funds out, those homeowners pay back into the fund and we keep loaning it back out. So it's a good program. We have about $125,000 in that fund at the moment. So at $20,000 as a maximum loan amount, we've got several availabilities for applicants, so if anyone is interested in that program, they can contact the city or CDS.
Is that like lower income?
It is a low income, you have to meet, low income guidelines to qualify. And it's a scored program where, once you meet the criteria, they'll inspect your home. And they, obviously, as you can see, they make a list of what the priorities are that the funds can be spent on. And basically, once the contractor is selected, the contractor kind of moves down the list and fixes what they can fix for $20,000. And it's a really good program too for people on fixed incomes. If you're 65 or older, there's loan forgiveness. So if you have something that you need to do on your house and you cannot afford to do it, this is a good program to apply to. So the current application you're looking at, it's a level B, that's an income requirement, 75%, 20-year loan at 0% interest and 25% deferred loan for the total $20,000. So if you approve this application today, then CDS will work with the applicant to finalize the documents and close the loan, and then the contractor can begin work.
And the housing committee recommended this.
Correct, yep, the housing committee, there's a committee on housing that reviews these. They reviewed this earlier in the week and recommending approval. The funds are available and it meets the criteria.
Who's on that committee?
Currently it is Jim Wagner and Jason Nelson and Jake Graff, Chris Lammers, and Jerry Allen. Anybody have any questions on the application?
As I understand, pretty much any more information than this is not really allowed to us,
It is
private information.
confidential, you know, who it is and the address, the property, location.
I guess unless you guys have any comments, I move to approve application number 1862 for a $20,000 loan from the CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Fund. The terms as follows: level B, 75% 20-year loan, 0% interest, and 25% deferred loan.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? Call roll.
Skylar.
Aye.
Van.
Aye.
Brad.
Yes.
Sean.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Thanks. All right, how about an update from the Ainsworth Child Development Center? Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us. Well, I guess we just wanted to, we haven't been here in about a year and a half or so, but things are finally starting to move along. You guys have probably already heard. So we are in the process of purchasing the Technologent building on Main Street, and then we're swapping with the Nazarene Church, the connection, because there's no green space that comes with the Technologent building. And so the connection owns that green space to the south of it. So we've secured the funds to purchase the building from the William and Ruth Scott Foundation. So we have the funds, just waiting for all of the details, I guess, to kind of work themselves out with that. So we should probably own it here by the end of the first quarter and have the swap done. And then we did go ahead and hire a project management group, the Lund Company out of Omaha. So we partnered up with them and are working with an architect out of Kearney, the Wilkins Architecture and Design Firm. And so they've been up here several times, they've been in the building, we've had environmental assessments, everything's good to go. We've had fire marshal in, the electrical inspections kind of all done at the connection building. So we're waiting on the preliminary drawings from the architecture now for the connection building for kind of what we're gonna do. And then we have met with every contractor that is interested in the project. So we had a meeting with them, and then they all went to the connection building so everyone could be on the same page to get us cost estimates. So we expect to have those by the end of January, and then we will start our capital campaign. So, I think, oh, and we did receive a $20,000 grant from the Brown County Foundation. So once we kick off our capital campaign, we'll kind of kick it off with that $20,000.
Now, how much of that green space are you gonna be using? I mean, there's, you'll probably fence it in, and that's where the old
Yeah, so
depot used to be, and
there's 3 lots right there, and so the connection owns that first 25 feet. And then it's our understanding that that middle lot, the city owns,
That's correct.
with some stipulations possibly. So we would be really interested in trying to figure out a way to acquire that, so we could use it.
I'm not sure that that's possible.
How did that happen to you?
That was deeded over to the city, designated as a green space. Is that correct, Rob?
So the use of it would be playground. The 25 by 100 feet works for a playground for us, so, I mean, it's enough that the connection building, the Church of the Nazarene, I should say, owns, that the green space they own is enough for a playground. But we would be interested in acquiring more, obviously, if there is a way to acquire that from the city. So that would be just something, if we could look into it, great. If it's not possible, it does not keep us from doing what we need to do, so.
I was thinking that the city owned part of that there were some
The
stipulations
middle,
on
I
that.
The
believe.
middle lot.
Yeah.
Who owns that?
Well, actually, both lots, the city
Oh,
owns
okay.
both of those lots from where the connection owns and then all the way to the theater. And that farthest south lot, my understanding has been, is also deeded as a green space. Because we, way back when the theater was talking and maybe they were gonna build a new building in there, and we looked into it at that time, and then my understanding then was it was not, the city was not able to do that.
What technically means green space.
You're right, so, yeah, that'd be.
I mean, it's maybe a
legal
technicality, maybe not, but we would be interested if,
And if there was even a
Yeah.
way that we could, so say fence off our, 25 feet, but then have a public play space that was fenced off that maybe the bigger kids could use if we did an after-school program or, in the future, so that there's more space.
there's no urgency on that, but we would be interested in looking into it if there is
If there was a
use for it,
workaround.
because it would be used then, so. And we probably wouldn't need both lots by any means. We don't have to have any of it, so just something to look into if we can look into that.
And for your capital campaign, do you have a certain dollar amount that you're shooting for?
So we're not there yet. We're waiting for the estimates from the contractors. So once we have that dollar amount, then we'll be able to put everything together and we'll launch a big kind of community-wide capital campaign with the dollars and everything.
Yeah, it'll probably be at least 60 to 90 days before the purchase of Technologent is completed, hopefully. And then the connection or the Church of the Nazarene is all ready to go. They've kind of already got their stuff set up. We were hoping to actually have that purchase done already by now, but there's a few technicalities there in getting the building, so. But yeah, as soon as we get that done and we finish the estimates, I mean, there is a preliminary budget, we just don't want to really release that until we can whittle it down the best that we can, obviously, so.
And we will likely start capital campaigning prior to the buildings officially being done, because it's a paperwork situation right now. That's what we're waiting for. So our project manager said we could start capital campaigning once we have the cost estimates from the contractors.
Sounds like you made a lot of progress.
Yes.
We made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. It kind of all finally just started falling into place, which was really nice. And we have been to I don't know if you want to mention that, we went to the school board and did
Oh,
talk
yeah.
a little bit about, I mean, we're trying to find ways to be as efficient as possible with the building, because obviously this is not a money-making project we're doing here, so.
No. We talked to the school board about, so a way that we could cut costs potentially is not having a commercial kitchen. And the school works with
Lunchtime
Lunchtime
Solutions.
Solutions to provide food at Head Start. And so the school has to approve for us to use them as well to provide meals at the child care center. And so they're more than willing to help us with that. So that will decrease cost exponentially. And a person. So it would decrease a person that we would have to hire as a nutrition specialist, which would be great.
Right, so I think the main thing is we're trying to think of all the connections we can make with different, and one other piece too is when we went to the community strategic planning
Oh,
session, that was really, really enlightening and really good. I felt like the community was very supportive at that meeting,
And childcare was one of the top 3, obviously, issues. I'm a prime example. I started back to work last Tuesday and don't have daycare yet because of the sicknesses. And my dad flew in from Georgia to watch my kids until they can go back to daycare. So, we need something that can stay open.
And we've also met with the local providers that have the in-home and have made some connections there and just open communication with that and supporting them to stay in business because, this is not gonna be for all children. Oh, what about the capacity and things like that?
Oh, yeah. So our capacity is 46 children. That hasn't changed. It would be 10 full-time staff at full capacity. We have the ability to kind of rearrange the ages depending on, or the kids within the classrooms depending on the ages that are in there. So we can kind of shift up and down, so it's not a set, 12 infants at all times if we have 20 toddlers. So we can kind of shift staff around and classes around that way.
But anyway, the capacity nowhere meets the needs
No,
of
we
the
have 105
community for
open
the.
spots. So we have 105 children under the age of 5 when we did that survey last year, and we can have 46 spots. And there's essentially a gap of 36 children without licensed childcare at the current time with the licensed providers we have. So, I mean, we know it's a need. And so we're doing the best we can and just wanted to kind of update you guys on where we're at, I guess. Do you have
Appreciate it.
any questions or, I mean,
No, sounds like you guys are on top of it. I mean, that's a problem all across rural America, really. So appreciate the group that's attacking it.
One thing I just thought of with the building plans and stuff, I don't know what the what the sewer line situation is, but I do think that is one thing that we are gonna need to run new
Yeah.
sewer line to that building, according to
Yeah.
the architect. So maybe we just need to be on top of what will be happening on the street plan, so we know how to plan for that.
Construction for that project is slated, because it ties in with DOT, for 2024. And
Okay.
the city does have plans to replace the entire sewer main, the length of Main Street, so.
That probably wouldn't be till
But,
2024.
even if you put a new sewer line in before that, it wouldn't be a big deal. It's not like we'd be tearing out what you put in. It would just be, when we lay the new sewer line, it would just be tapped back into the new line, which would be the case with everybody along Main Street.
sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys.
the update. Let's move on to my favorite subject, consider the purchase of a garbage truck. Now, of course, you made the decision last meeting to pursue the city maintaining garbage service. This would be the first step. We budgeted for this in the budget workshops we did last September, August, September. So, I mean, really tonight, Lisa's gotten information on the truck and we'll just be looking for a motion to order that truck. We wouldn't have it delivered till later in the year, and we would have time to develop a subcommittee to talk about how we're gonna fund this, because I know you guys have questions. There's lots of opinions on how to do all the funding, and there's lots of options. So we're not trying to decide that tonight, we're just trying to decide if we should order the truck.
Would kind of put a deadline on deciding how to pay for it though.
Oh, absolutely. I think you wanna have that figured out in the next month or two.
Do this good for 60 days, if I'm reading that right? All right, McQueen Equipment, Kinetic Leasing deal.
It's fluid, just like with anything right now. I'm sure the longer you wait, the more the price is probably gonna go up.
Rates are well.
Yeah. The biggest thing I think was just when I talked to the salesman, there are a couple of trucks, he's calling them March and April trucks, basically what that means is, for orders here in the next, however long those trucks are still there, those would be August and September delivery trucks. If you wait, first come, first served, the longer you wait on it, those might be gone, and then you're looking at 2023. So it's kind of the sooner you make a decision, of course, that is the sooner you get the truck, but
Is that getting the Mack truck, or is that getting the truck with the garbage truck on it and the whole works?
that's the
usable?
whole works.
That's getting
Yeah. The March, April that's when the Mack truck is ready, then they send it to Heil. Heil has 60 days to outfit the box.
On that quote, can you break down how much is the truck and how much is or the totes? Is that, I never saw where that was split anywhere that shows up.
The truck is $413,914.40. And then the toters are $69,339.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we did, I know it's in the documentation, but just so it's on record, we had them requote. It didn't change the pricing at all. The 64-gallon totes are the same cost as the 96-gallon tote, but we did, we talked about, older people that don't have as much trash, do they really need a 96-gallon? So we did have them quote us, just thinking forward. We kind of went through our our list, and that way it gives the council some flexibility if you wanted to consider a discount, you know, for people 65 and older, or something, a price difference between the size of the toters, that gives you the flexibility to discuss that. But it doesn't change the pricing, whatever size of container.
So on a $500,000 purchase, it doesn't need to go out for bid?
This is, Heil's the only one that makes this truck.
Oh, I understand that, but
Did you want to submit a bid?
no. I just, you
I
know,
understand.
Yeah.
is it because over a certain amount, this governmental entity is required to go out for bid, even though they are the only one?
That's true.
Yeah.
Gregory County likes it up in South Dakota because they went from 3 commissioners to 5 commissioners, because the 3 commissioners had Terex write up bids for front end loaders. The people got upset, so now there's 5 commissioners up there to make the decisions. That's just
Unless
fair.
there's a state, they're in a state bid on garbage trucks, is there, that's the only way I know of to get around bidding process, is if you use something that's gone through the state bid process.
I would doubt it. I guess I haven't checked, to be honest.
I wouldn't think for garbage there probably would be.
This was bid through Sourcewell, is where this pricing came from. Rob, what's your opinion? Do you think we need to?
Prudence tells me it should be bid.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
That kind of dollars.
that's true.
And you know, let it bid out
You know,
for
there's-
30 days or?
There is such a thing, I think, as if there's a highly specialized area and you only have one outfit that does this, then it's a different story. But I think there's probably more people out there than this brand, or where we're getting it, that may be selling trucks like this. I don't know that, but I would assume that there is.
My understanding, and I'm not arguing that point at all, it's just my understanding is Heil is the only brand that makes this particular truck that does the rear load and the sidearm. I mean, that was the whole reason we started looking at it to start with, but I get the point of the bids.
Unless you can declare an emergency, then you don't have to do it.
I don't think we do that. We're not at that point yet.
No. I think that the short period of time that it would take to do that probably isn't gonna delay anybody anything. It might take care of some problems later down the road.
I'll make a motion, we table this until we can check into the bid process on.
Should we move to, do we have to move to put it up for bid, or
No, I don't think so.
second?
Motion and a second to table. Any discussion? Call roll.
Vance, Brad,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Skylar.
All right, we'll table that, get a little more information on who makes it and who can bid it.
Say there can be, I don't know what needs to be approved to put out for bid, but I mean, if we can just get it going, I suppose it'd be best, probably.
Maybe if we could have an emergency meeting, if we wanted to bid it, if we need to, we could get together for that one item potentially.
Yep, I will do some diligence and see what I
Not in the next 10 or 12 days. Well, you guys can, I guess, I don't have to do that. Forgot about that. All right, thank you. Let's talk about alternate date for the February regular city council meeting. I will not be in town on the, what is it, the
can.
9th, 8th,
I think it's the 9th.
9th?
There's some kind of, well,
good with anything. Whatever works for everybody else.
I like Wednesdays at this time just because that's what I'm used to, so I won't forget otherwise, probably.
You'd like it 16th? Or,
Yeah, that'd probably be what I'd shoot for, but I'm open to.
does that throw any wrench in any works if we go to the 16th?
Yeah, I'll be gone the 15th, I'll be back late the 15th, so I will be the 16th. I won't have any time to look at any of the items on there, but I won't have my iPad with me, so I'll be coming in blind.
I'll just tell you how to vote.
Okay.
We'll be good. Does that take any kind of motion, or do we just set the meeting date?
I think you'll need a motion because by ordinance it should be.
It should, okay, that is an ordinance. All right, then, anybody who'd like to make a motion?
I move to move the, meeting of February 9th to February 16th, 5 P.M.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Call roll?
Brad,
Yes.
Sean,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Vance.
Motion carried unanimously, thank you. Down to 2 items. Should we do your report before or after the,
Actually, I can do mine real quick. Hold on.
all right, go ahead, Lisa.
Cross connection surveys are done. Yay. We did get 100% response rate, so.
I
good
didn't
job.
think you'd ever get to that. I didn't think there was any way.
Well, you can put all of that credit to mostly Brad Miller and Lindy Gucci for tracking all that down and organizing it, and yay, it's done. So good job. Highway 7 has, just been an ongoing topic of conversation. I do have an RFQ put together to go out for procurement for design build engineering services, so that's I was waiting to actually advertise it until the council discussed it, so I can tweak anything on the RFQ if I need to. The CARB, Marcus already updated on all that, but we'll be meeting again next week to review Heather Cicada's advisements on the plan, so that hopefully in February, you guys can take a look at that, and then the steering committee will have the information it needs to move forward with educating and informing and advertising and doing all of those things.
Council will have to we'll have to approve.
Yep,
the
there'll be
going through-
resolutions
yes,
and
yeah.
things of that nature, so that we'll have to set the ballot language. So we'll try to have all of that put together, hopefully by the February meeting. So I've been working with Nebraska Safety and Fire, as we talked about in the budget workshops, to replace that fire suppression pump that leaked that damaged the gym floor. So now that the gym floor is fixed, I've been hounding them to get here and replace that pump.
Is the pump turned off or
It's not, we just
not leaking,
keep
was
an
it?
eye
As
on
I say,
it.
you might want to make
Um,
a note of all the times you've contacted them.
The thing
Kind of
is,
keep a record.
he had it ordered. He called me yesterday and said he called the vendor to check on where the order was at, and they told him that pump is no longer available. So they quoted him a different pump that's $5,000 more than the other one. So I've asked him to check with other vendor. He had some other calls to make, but anyway, that's not quite doing as planned. And otherwise, we've just been working on end of year things, filings, reports, working with Dan Ethel to schedule our audit. They've had some illnesses and various things that it's been kind of difficult to get that scheduled, but that's about it, I guess, for the last month.
All right, anybody have any questions for Lisa? Excellent. Well, let's move on to the review and consider the potential Main Street improvements presented in the City of Ainsworth Streetscape Plan.
So this was a planning study that was done back in 2011, basically. RDG was the hired engineer to do this work. And basically what they've done, you can see, is kind of a conceptual design of what may be a main street. They also included Highway 20, but for all intents and purposes here, we're just looking at Main Street. What kinds of improvements may want to be made. Since none of us were here in 2011, I guess that's, besides maybe Rod, and Kinsey and Rod Will, but then you guys can speak to it too if you want, in terms of what maybe the thinking was at that time.
Did you get rid of the bike lane? That was the big controversy of having the bike lane. That looks like it's gone. I think they removed that. That was the big thing back in there.
I think
They
there was one,
originally put a bike lane in.
I think there was one deal in here that said bike lane, but yeah, I agree.
You know, this is from,
I did reach out to RDG just because a lot of what they had proposed in the planning study, NDOT is already gonna take care of with the highway, redoing of the highway. So like the porous paving, it would not be something that we would pursue. The bump outs, DOT is already doing as a part of their plan, so that would not be a cost of the city to do that. It would be on us to landscape it if we wanted to do that, but.
The bump outs?
That would be on the corners where the crosswalks are, where they kind of push out a bit.
Yeah, I gotcha.
One thing you probably want to discuss is, we did trees the last time down Main Street. Hit or miss, they look good, but there were some problems with them. I think one decision you're gonna wanna make is, do you wanna mess with trees on Main Street, or do you wanna stay without them?
Yeah, the landscaping is probably maybe the biggest topic, because the stained concrete wouldn't be hard to include into the state bid if you wanna do that. The one thing Mark did tell me, DOT will not allow mid-block crosswalks, so they have that throughout. So that would not be allowed, but if you wanted to stain the crosswalks, that would be another improvement. Lighting, which we've kind of already talked about, that we want to do upgraded lighting on Main Street, that would be on us to do that. So really, you're looking at kind of the aesthetic, the landscaping, lighting, and then I guess ultimately too, because the items with the biggest price tag are gonna be that splash pad and the fountain. And that would be in that mini park area that the daycare ladies were talking about.
We talked about updating the splash pad out with the EC color too, so.
Yeah, I don't know about the idea of a splash pad on Main Street. That's a little,
Maybe a little much. I would kind of like to see that park improve.
but there are other things that could be done in that area if you left it, where it's a green space. You could maybe turn it more into a,
Especially where they said they might.
with a, I don't know if you had picnic tables and some landscaping in there, if people would walk down there and eat lunch or not, I don't know. But
Yeah, they'd be pretty upset if we tore all the grass up and put down concrete.
you'd have to dye the concrete.
But at this point today, I don't know that we need to know every little detail. It's kind of more general. Do we kind of like this concept, so that when we do the RFQ and whatever engineering firm wins that procurement, that they can look at this and say, yes, this is kind of the general idea what we're going with, aside from, if you don't want the splash pad and you don't want the fountain.
I think that Winter, South Dakota, has something similar with these bump outs and stuff. Just on their Main Street, as far as I can tell.
Well, the bump outs will create easier visibility, if you're turning from the side street onto Main Street. You'll lose some parking. I think when I talked to Mark, preliminarily looking at it, we might lose about 6 parking spaces total all throughout Main Street with the bump outs.
And there's a couple seconds and Main coming from the west. You got a pretty tough intersection there. I don't know how many times I've come down Main Street and a person gets halfway to the intersection.
We've got
before
several
they can
accidents
see
there,
you.
Well,
and stuff, so
and
if
then
there's a
you
way to
pile-
improve, that would be excellent.
Then you pile snow in the middle too, and that
Yep.
adds another hazard. So I think the bump outs are a good idea.
Is there an alternative to the trees potentially? Because where the trees kind of are gonna seem to be probably a hot button topic for you, I would guess, with some of the folks on Main Street. Would Be something like, maybe like a raised planter type of thing, where you could put those periodically, that's more for either like native grasses or something small that isn't going to cause the potential sidewalk damage of a tree or some of the upkeep that's.
I think the original part of the trees was, they weren't supposed to get that big. They were
Correct,
supposed to be
absolutely,
replaced.
you know, correct.
They should have
That's
been
right.
replaced.
When it was first proposed, they were to be planted and removed and replanted at least every 10 years. When Ainsworth was looking to become a tree city.
I really, I don't mind the planter type deal, but any type of greenery on Main Street, unless the city is planning on taking care of themselves or the businesses, I just don't see it getting done. I think we can make those a lot nicer with, nice street poles, lighting, and you don't have to do any type of vegetation down Main Street. That's my opinion.
Unless you wanted to, the city could hire GJW. Their deal out
Yeah.
front, those flowers were good all
Yeah.
summer
Yeah.
long.
The
My
other-
wife was jealous, 'cause hers died.
You know, the other thing with that too, if you walk up and down Main Street right now, if you're walking and it's a windy day, those little patches where there were trees that are just now sand and dirt, it doesn't take much and you're eating a face full. I don't know if anybody else has had that, but you walk up, if you're walking on Main Street on a windy day, you're eating a face full of sand or dirt a lot of times. And I think a lot of it is because that concrete isn't uniform, because there's all those cutouts.
And I'm looking at
From where
more,
the trees
like
were.
during the winter time, trying any obstructions, obstacles to move snow around.
Yeah,
If you can kind of keep it as much limited to what you have on there, it'd be a lot easier to move snow. That's what I was worried about these bump outs. Are you gonna be able to pile your snow down the middle before you get rid of it?
I've talked about that with Mark a little bit. He seems to think yes, we might have to not be so slow about getting rid of it, but yeah.
Cause you just, I can see in the
We'll
middle,
just have
of
to
the middle of
clear.
the street it is, but you get those bump outs and you have a,
We'd have to clear farther back on the intersection.
you have a 4 or 5 foot section of snow in the middle, there's not gonna be much room there.
One thing about these trees is, I think that probably, one of the ideas of doing trees that provide shade during summertime, when you're walking up and down Main Street. I don't know if that's really necessary with all the awnings and everything on, but maybe there's some kind of like parasols or something we can put up instead, or something that doesn't really need maintenance, but could also provide shade. I don't know.
Yeah,
you're right about using
anything
snow
you-
removal.
You get snow removal and anything that will do obstruction of oncoming traffic. I think safety has to be the number one concern that I think that, looking both ways, 'cause it is tough. If we can improve people coming off the side streets onto Main Street and improve the safety of that, it's been a plus.
Lisa, let's say everyone was just enamored with how these things were set up. Who pays the 1.6 million? Is that a city expense?
Well, yeah, it'd be like Highway 20, so whatever was cost plus from DOT would be on the city.
So it wouldn't be any of the landowners along Main Street, the city would have to
The city
eat
would
that.
But you said DOT will do the bump outs and some of those, so it would be mainly like your stained
And some of this,
stained crosswalks,
yeah.
which long-term might be better than having to constantly go repaint them all the time.
Is that correct, though, what I heard? They're gonna tear out from storefront to storefront, so
Yeah,
sidewalk,
sidewalk.
it's gonna all be tore out and replaced.
Yeah.
And that's what the business owners don't have any of that cost.
correct.
And so all,
Hopefully the moats clean up.
They'll take care of, curb and gutters, drain.
Yeah,
Yes.
drain a little bit better.
so you will all the sewer lines and water lines into the buildings be replaced at that time, or how does that work?
Not necessarily. There is some new legislation coming from the state that may be requiring replacement of lead service lines. So while everything's exposed, if there's lead lines, we might be replacing those.
Yeah. I just know it was a concern with our other paving, districts, you hate to
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
brand new street have to be cut up because somebody's sewer line or, coming out or water line. That although the curb stops are in the sidewalk, So the city will replace those up to the curb stop.
Yes.
Okay.
And if there is a lead service line, it's
Right.
likely we'll replace that as well. Yeah, but sewer will have to be replaced. That was in the study we did in 2017. The water main, I mean, it's potential that the water main could last another however many years, but it's not gonna outlive the new paving.
Yeah.
So I think the city would be wise to just go ahead and replace that while it's exposed as well, so that we're not having to potentially endure the cost of turning up the highway down the road if it doesn't make it as long as the highway does. That's, I'm sure, gonna be the recommendation, but we are exploring all of our funding options, so.
Is that gonna be a case when they're replacing that sewer, is Main Street gonna be down for water and sewer? I mean, I'm just trying to
I
picture
think they're
that
gonna
for
run the
businesses.
dummy line,
Okay.
basically, is what they're gonna do.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
that your downtime is.
Sure, so they put the new line in next to the old one while the old
And then
one's still in
abandon it.
service, and then,
Abandoned.
gotcha. I was just trying to think of the logistics on how that was gonna work, to have that all torn up at once and have people's sewer lines out.
Nuggets.
It'll be,
Good work.
it'll be a big
I have to
project.
pay my bartender a little more.
Be a lot of work.
So for tonight, what do we need? Are we need to make
I
a
think-
motion? vote?
I guess for tonight, because when you procure for the design build, I think that's when we're gonna get into the nitty gritty about what do you want in the spec. So for tonight, I guess I just wanted to bring it to your attention, so that when we procure and I'm visiting with engineers, I can say, this is conceptually kind of where we're at. This is what we don't want that's on here, so disregard that. So just in general, do we kind of like what's going on here? Are there?
Before we decide, as a council, decide this is what we like and stuff, would it be a good idea to maybe have a town hall, and get some people in here and get maybe Main Street owners in here to see what they're thinking, if they like this design, because, you know, it's gonna affect them, and they're gonna be, you know, Main Street owners, businesses are gonna be seeing it every day, so I think their input might be kind of nice to what they think is.
They're gonna want more foot traffic too, probably.
Did you guys have thoughts on, because I think one of the other ones that talked about a bunch was the type of lighting. If you've been through, I wanna say, is it Wisner?
I like
That
this.
has the small little short street, old style street lamps placed periodically as opposed to the big overhanging.
But yeah, I do
lamps.
remember seeing those, how do they run in their power lines then?
Yeah,
Is there a tall one every other, that they run the power
I
lines?
don't
Can't remember how they
remember.
did that. But that does look really
Wisner's
nice.
the one I remember driving through though, that has
Yeah.
the shorter style that's on their highway.
And
Well,
some of
and
that,
Bassett's Main Street has
Yep,
the
short.
shorter green ones. And
O'Neill's Main has short.
I don't know.
A lot of it too is,
Yeah.
do you wanna hang banners on them, you know, like we talked about for Highway 20, or do you not wanna hang banners, you know, will our Christmas lights hang on short poles that we have now?
If you're gonna run banners on.
I'm not necessarily a fan of the short one, I figured
If
that's
you're
something
gonna
you're
get
gonna want to
Some kind
Yeah,
of
decide.
you
technical
want
art
to that style,
would be
and then
nice. I agree.
modern, because in 10 years modern, probably just expensive.
So we have a little Main Street
And we
meeting
do,
for guys?
we did have a
informal,
committee
so-
of,
Oh, yeah.
you know, back when we did Highway 20, there was a committee made up of kind of just citizens that had come out of the town hall from 2016, 2015. Anyway, there's probably a dozen people on that committee. We can certainly get those people together, but it maybe wouldn't be a bad idea to have a meet and greet, you know, and talk to people, or a public hearing on the matter. But I guess those things can all be done in the interim. I just,
Should we advertise for like a hearing at our next meeting? So people, I think I should be here to hear what people say.
Probably wanna do it separate, just a little town, you know,
yeah.
just that issue.
Informal
Yeah,
type of meeting,
on its
yeah.
own with.
Do a couple hours.
You probably wanna do that after you had your
I
design
was gonna
firm
say, I
in
think we
place
want an
too.
engineer to kind of look at it first so that they can coordinate with DOT a little bit, because we don't need to be talking about things that aren't
Yeah.
possible
Right.
with the project, so.
And
Again,
this
this is just
all
kind
came from exactly that. I mean, 'cause
Conceptual.
initially, I think Main Street was gonna be like 2015 or whatever it was. and-
So you just,
I thought it-
yeah, we like the concept, or what
Yeah.
are you looking for?
Mostly, honestly, I wanted feedback on the splash pad and the fountain, because those items are like $300,000.
I don't
Splash
think.
pad
Put it
on
into
Main
the new
Street.
pool.
We're gonna put materials.
I do like the fountain, if they can rehabilitate the fountain, the fountain there, I think that's got
Put a little bottle of
history.
shampoo out there.
Oh my God, it's a
But what fountain you talking about?
This one they're proposing to build in the mini park.
Oh, no. You already have a fountain.
We've got it.
You got a fountain.
Yeah.
And I know the other drinking fountain in front of the Steck building, I got wiped out.
Yeah, actually, I think all of them from 2011 that are in here are gone.
They were about gone.
No, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
okay.
sure that we didn't
I
want
noticed
those
that,
big
like,
ticket items.
fountains, I
And
don't
then
think it was
conceptually,
a-
aesthetically, we want to do some upgrading.
Yeah, you give the business owners on Main Street that, what was it, 24-page brochure with the nice alleys, they'd probably go for that.
Yeah, I did like the alley, pictures of the
Yeah.
alleys, but I don't think that's, I know there's probably, we need to do something with our alleys, but that's probably gonna be another project.
You know, that, whatever you guys did, and it's been numerous, it's been probably close to 10 years ago, but when they came in and basically put a new layer on, that lasted 5+ years before it started breaking up,
In the
probably.
alleys, you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
they
probably
did
needs to be
that.
ground down now before you do that.
I would say that, because they're so, yeah, they're built up so
You
bad.
put another layer on there, it's gonna just
You would, yeah.
water run into the basement, so
Yeah.
it needs to be ground back down.
All right, let's get back on Main Street, now
Oh.
with the alleys.
You wanna keep going?
I would love to.
So, but yeah, if we all agree that we want to improve the aesthetics, and we kind of, in principle, kind of like the ideas there, I think that's probably what we need moving forward. And then we get into the nitty gritty when we procure the design engineer.
I think so. I do see some, this parallel parking on the side streets.
Likely not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and two, you know, they've got going back in there with the farmer's market, and we don't own that property. So there's just, I mean, there's a lot going on there that's kind of pretty, but it's not really gonna be feasible.
The idea of the stained crosswalks and things that make those pop a little bit, just the different coloration, that shouldn't be a super huge
No,
added cost.
Expensive.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, he's got
those
costs.
types of things look, those aesthetically look good.
But yeah, out of this total 1.6 million, that includes the splash pad and the fountain and, you know, all of that stuff. Furniture, I think even like benches and patio tables and.
So do you
No,
need a motion,
I don't know
or are you
about the-
Comfortable with what people are
Yeah.
suggesting?
I think maybe a motion would be helpful, at least to exclude those items.
Exclude
I'm
trees,
sorry,
the water
what?
park and stuff
Oh,
like that.
I was gonna say, I don't know about the tables and that type of thing, but, you know, modern type benches periodically, you know, so people can sit down, you know, even,
You got parades and stuff down there. that- Yeah.
and I don't know if you want them out by the curb or up towards the building.
Think you'd want
Snow removal is another problem though, if you start putting that stuff in.
I wouldn't be surprised if when you procure for the engineer, if we don't have these boards back in here,
Oh.
and have the engineer going through and saying, okay, what about this, what about this, what about this?
We can do benches with little awnings over them instead of trees.
Maybe. So yeah, that's what I was looking for tonight, just to kind of.
I'll
get-
make a motion to move forward with, what do we call it? Main Street improvements, to take it out, the splash pad and the fountain that is listed.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
Will that include trees or no? In that, with no trees or?
I think that's probably the.
Okay.
Think, we could, for discussion at least.
Yeah, as we move forward. Okay, go ahead and call the roll.
Okay, got Sean,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Vance,
Aye.
Brad.
Yes.
So
All right, that completes our agenda. And I am going to adjourn the meeting at 6:04. Hope I didn't cut anybody off too much tonight, but
Do you still, you're hunting tomorrow, or you got it?
I'm leaving right now.
Right now?
Driving through the night to Douglas,